Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of the Rest Movement Podcast. I am your host, Renee Young Blake, the Nugget Dropper, and my co-host over there,
Tanya.
She just had to bite her tongue before we got started. So she's a little choked up.
Yeah.
She's stirring up her own trouble today. Anywho, we are a podcast that helps you release every single thing. And you know what time it is? It's Freedom Fridays. You know, we've been forgetting Fridays. It's Freedom Fridays. Fridays, it's Freedom Fridays. Fridays, it's Freedom Fridays. So come on in, let's get free. Okay? You know what we've been talking about. Maybe you don't. You know, we talked about when going to a place you expect to heal, a place where you're supposed to get free, a place where you're supposed to get delivered, a place where you're supposed to find community, but that's the place that hurts you. And how do you overcome that? How do you still worship the one you came to worship, but the people who are representing him are misrepresenting him by the way they treat you? How do you get over that? And so we've been talking about church hurt. And I think at the end of last session, you were talking about you've never really experienced it. And then afterwards, we were talking like, oh, I guess I have experienced church hurt before, but it was so distant because it trained you. And you said something very profound that I said, wow, that just sums up the whole episode, the whole entire topic, because you talked about the fact that you have learned who you're coming to see. And while community is important, you're coming to see God, and you have to keep in your mind not allowing the things. And I think I was talking about the fact that we forget that all of us are flawed. All of us got issues, and we don't know from day to day at that very moment. Like, you know, even us meeting up today, as loving as we are towards each other. I haven't talked to you all day because you've been at work. You know, I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off all day. And we come together because we love to empower and we want people to grow. But who knows what baggage even from the day we're bringing. And what if I said something that wasn't intended to be offensive, but it became offensive because of where you are today? That is not your usual place. And so we have to take all of those things in consideration. And I just want to make sure that, one, we don't misunderstand what church hurt is, because it's not the preacher preaching the word and dicing and slicing you because you convicted, been there, done that, because God is speaking through them to you. That's why you went there. You wanted either God to confirm something for you, or you want God to tell you something. You need to go back and pray and get confirmation that that was the truth. That's not church hurt. Church hurt is not also somebody pulling you by your coattail when you know you're out of order and you just mad because they done busted your chops for it. That's not church hurt. Church hurt brings that judgment that is horrible for people to do. I was sitting with a bishop yesterday, and 95 years young, and him and my dad were in ministry together, and he's like one of the only, it's a few others left, but he's one of the only in my dad's circle that's still here, still preaching at 95, getting ready to be 96 in a few months. And we were just talking about church. You know, we were talking about religion. And I'm always surprised because, you know, people are one way when they're in the pulpit. They present themselves in a kind of way. It's like, whew, you put them on this pedestal. But when you get behind the scenes and have conversations, you realize they bleed just like you bleed. They have hurts just like you hurt, but they have to sometimes put on a persona, put on a mask and all this other stuff. And they get just as hurt as we get. You know, sheep hurt the shepherd at times. And nobody talks about that. That's why you see so many pastors burning out and so many people throwing in the towel. So I want us to know that we're all human, and let's just bring back humanity. Let's just bring back the fact that it wasn't God that did it. So let's not blame him and turn away from him. So the last thing that we talked about, we talked about what church hurt is. We talked about the different areas that betrayal, gossip, judgment, rejection, spiritual abuse, leadership failures, feeling unseen or silenced. We talked about those topics, but today I want to start with why church hurt feels so deep. You know, why does that hurt us so deeply? Why do we feel that so much? The pain isn't just about what happened, it's the who it happened through that usually is what hurts us the most. Because we expect, especially if you've been in the world, you're expecting the people in the church to be different.
So I think church hurt hurts worse for a couple of reasons that came to my mind. One is that becomes your family. And for people who really don't have a family or a strong foundation, that becomes their connection. And those are the people that they commune with all the time. And a lot of times we hold those people to a higher standard because they're believers, and so they know about love, and they're supposed to know about those things that can cause you pain and hurt, right? So you think they'll use more preventive measures, or they'll come at you more transparent with love, though. And the other thing is we're seeking validation through the ministry leaders and not the Lord. And so if somebody says something that's offensive, even if it's true, you take that to heart. And I think the other part of the offense is it's important that we get correction. And it does sting. It doesn't matter who it is, from in the church or out the church. When somebody calls you on your stuff, it never feels good. But the growth is you eat the meat and throw out the bone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people just take it so personal, and it's not personal.
And truthfully, you know, the church should be the place that rips the band-aid off,
Mm-hmm.
the things that the patchwork we've been doing in our life not to be healed.
Right.
You know, the stuff that we've spent our life covering up so that the real issue doesn't show up. The church should be the place that exposes that. But the church also should be the place, once it's exposed, is the place that puts the balm that's in Gilead, that puts the Jesus on the wound so that they can heal, not pour salt on it.
Absolutely.
And too often that's what happens. Yeah, I've exposed your wound because something in the service, something in the relationship with this community, this new family, as you said, something in this place has helped me unearth some things. And now I'm trying to dig it out. But they're not helping me. They're making me hurt worse. And I know I'm supposed to expect some pain, but am I supposed to hurt like this?
No, and haven't you heard, I've heard this many times, where the church has more sick people than any place, especially the hospital, right? But their sicknesses are, like you said, a lot of the things that they've been doing a long time, and nobody said anything to them, and they just let you go around being sick.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like you also said, okay, call me on it with love.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, you know, if you're in the leader and you're doing something, they ask you to sit down for a minute, you know, and to work that thing out. And because you don't want to taint your parishioners, right? But that's a learned, that's a learned skill.
You know, something that I've heard, and just like you said, I've heard over the years that they say that the church is a place for sick people, that it's a hospital for sick people. But if you really look at the Bible, and if you look at biblical times, what you saw was when they came together to build themselves up. Then they went out to disciple people. Yeah. They didn't bring people to the church to be discipled. They discipled them in their personal relationship. Then come with me to the house of God so that we can sharpen ourselves even more.
Yes.
And then go back out and get some more fish. So what we've switched in our generation, or the generations before us, what we've switched is we've made the church responsible, and the pastors, the leaders responsible for the sheep, when the sheep was supposed to be out there sheep and sheep. We were supposed to be leading them and spending time with them. That's why they have the follow-up when somebody joins the church, right?
Follow up, follow up, follow up.
And spend time with them so that when they have questions, they won't come to church and be offended by something and not understand what was just happening. That really wasn't offensive. Mm-hmm. It is because, when sin is being removed, things hurt. It feels a different kind of way because you're not accustomed to it. And I don't mean playing church and being churchy. I don't care about none of that because that's just exercise sometimes. People don't. I don't know if I talked to you about a movie I watched. I don't think I did because I just watched it yesterday. Yeah, watched it yesterday called Sunday Morning Rapture on Tubi, the channel, the streaming channel that she talks about me about. But it has some good stuff on here, and here was one of them, Sunday Morning Rapture. And it showed all of these different segments, all these different families, all these different scenarios where one part of the family was churchgoers and loved Jesus and was trying to win the other family. And some playing church even at home, but, saying that they love Jesus, but their lifestyle doesn't demonstrate that. Right. And all of a sudden this cloud comes and an earthquake. And the ones that were supposed to go to church with their family said, I'll go next week. They all at home with the earthquake, bloom, 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 jumping them around. And there was a pastor that had been preaching about the rapture, doing a rapture series. Mm-hmm. So now one of the children who didn't go with his mother and father and his sister to church, because he was trying to pick up this girl and bring her to church. But she went on ahead with her parents because her father said, no, you coming with me, little girl. Anyway, so he was at home and all of a sudden he panicking because the whole house shaking. So he runs to the church. He gets in the building and the girl was there, but her parents are gone because they've been raptured. And she's crying saying, I thought I was saved. I thought I was saved. And he's like, what are you talking about? You thought they're gone. I mean, full drama. But what was overwhelming to me was the number of people in those church pews that remained. Mm. When I tell you, it was moderately huge, not a mega church, but moderately huge church. Probably 500 to 1,000 people could fit in them pews. And can I tell you that there was quite a bit of people there? 2 of the people in robes in the pulpit, one of them was not the pastor, but one was an older minister who had been preaching with the pastor for 30 years. And the other one was a young guy who the scene started out with him being in a barbershop. And, somebody was talking to him about ministry. Another minister like, man, we really got it. He's like, man, don't nobody want to hear all of that. He kept blowing off everything. He wanted to talk about Jesus in the barbershop. And here he was. Now, you stuck. You left.
Dang it, man.
And so we don't want that kind of stuff to happen. When we're talking about church hurt, you can't allow other people to block you from receiving what God has in store.
Yeah, that spirit comes over me sometimes when I'm in church, not just even visiting other churches. And it's funny that you said that because I said, I wonder how many people in here are really serving God, truly sold out for the Lord, because it's a difficult journey, but it's the most rewarding journey we'll ever take. But even in you talking about this, I don't even know if church hurt is the same anymore because the churches are so busy trying to accommodate all the different personalities and cultures and trends.
And that was the other thing that I talked about with the bishop. I said, we have gone from the old school traditional thou shalt nots to the polar opposite, to now entertaining.
Love is love.
Love is love. Entertaining whatever people want. It's like our programming is, well, they like this. God don't care about our feelings. Whether our feelings get hurt, he wants us to know the truth. It is the spirit that communes with the spirit, right? Not the conditions of the flesh. This flesh gets me in trouble all the time. Absolutely. And that's not what he cares about, because he knows this decaying flesh is not returning to him. So our spirit needs to connect with the Spirit and stop looking for entertainment. Stop looking for a church where next Sunday so-and-so, a gospel artist so-and-so gonna be there. Who cares? Do you even know if that gospel artist that you've fallen all out for living a lifestyle of Christ?
Right.
I appreciate God working through them, but you're making them your little God.
Mm-hmm.
And you're making Sunday morning a place. What if God comes back on a Sunday morning? And we're sitting in our congregations and poof, just like that. And Debo, this was when Debo was alive. He was actually in this, playing as himself. And he went to a basketball court, indoor basketball court, where these young boys were playing. Mm-hmm. And he was like, what if Jehovah came back today? What would y'all? They like, man, he said, if I make this shot, then y'all going to church with me. And they said, okay. And then one of them hit him like, man, why you saying okay? He said, listen, there's another side. So one of the little boys said, he said, if you miss it, you got to give all of us $100. And I think it was like 15 boys. So they went to other scenes. Eventually, the earthquake came, the dark clouds, all of this. And they went back to the court. Debo was shooting. And the ball goes in. The boys start yelling, oh, man. But when they turn around, his clothes are on the ground with his tennis shoes because he's been raptured. As well as some of the players, because some of the guys were Christian and they were believers, and so their clothes were there too. But those smart running them out, they still there. And so, like you said, church hurt may not be for most what it used to be, because many of us who have experienced church hurt didn't leave the church. We stayed in there because that's what you did. It's just like having jobs back in the day. You stayed your employer for 30 years. Mm-hmm. But now you piss me off, I'm leaving where I'm going to find another job. People don't stay anymore. And so it's this great falling away. It's the same thing now, that people aren't staying because the moment they get their feelings hurt, they're gone.
Church hoppers.
They're not coming there to commune together. But for those of you who have a relationship in a house of God and have been hurt by it and are still there, but you're struggling with your relationship. You're struggling because it can affect your trust, your faith. It affects your worship. It affects your community, as you said, and your identity. If these people are not, identifying with me and I'm not identifying with them, how do I stay here? It's like being a black sheep in the family, and nobody likes feeling like that.
And what also comes to mind is the person who has to share with you the correction. I'll say 90% of the people don't want to have that conversation with you. Because first of all, a lot of times they're fond of you. They don't want you to feel hurt. They are worried of how you're going to handle it. Are you going to be able to handle it in a way where we can have a conversation and we still can have a relationship? Or are you going to shut down, cut me off, and never come back? But a lot of that also depends on your presentation, I think. But the bottom line is your obedience. Because when you do speak to someone about something, it should always be God-led. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be from your emotions or because they made you mad or you saw something you didn't like, unless it was very blatant.
And if it's God-led, then it's going to be with love.
Right.
Because if it don't come with love, it ain't God-led.
That's right. And you trying to have this position that actually offends other people. Because if you offend someone in the church in a bad way, believe me, you're offending other people around that person. So it's very important that it is God-led.
Absolutely. So why do you think people often struggle to separate God from the people who hurt them?
I think it's the easy out for them.
I've been looking for a reason. And now you just gave me one. Mm-hmm. Thank you, ma'am. Because it's getting up on Sunday mornings and coming to church when I could be in bed. This, being in all these ministries, y'all have me working doing this and invite me to do this. And every time I turn around, we doing something. So you offending me kind of lets me off the hook.
Right.
And it lets you off what hook, though?
Right.
Because God sees it and
right.
God knows it. And if truth be told, even if they did offend you harshly, mm-hmm. you're supposed to forgive.
Right.
So you really don't have an excuse. What can you say?
And it can become uncomfortable continued conversation if you're mature, because you have to process what they told you. Sometimes you want to process it, unless it's, like I said earlier, something very blatant, but it's something that took you aback and you're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Then you want to be able to process that. You want to pray and you want to ask God, well, what is this? Or can you show me? And he may redirect you back to the person who corrected you.
For sure.
Right?
Because why not confront it? You know what you said to me the other day. I understand that you were trying to share a message with me, but I was really hurt by it, and let the dialogue happen. Most likely, if they really came in love, they're going to apologize, because that was not their intent. But they were trying to obey God, and it was uncomfortable, as you said. It was uncomfortable for me to say it to you, but I didn't want to get in trouble with God. Would I rather, you be mad than he be mad?
Exactly.
So
that's
I'm sorry, but
yeah, that's a no-brainer.
So I understand that, but we have to understand too. People can misrepresent God, but they can't redefine who He is. In the way that you ensure that somebody doesn't redefine it is, the word yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If I know what the word says, you can't come to me saying nothing crazy.
But that again talks about all those parishioners that got left behind. The only word they hear is the word that the pastor gives them.
Mm-hmm. And they don't even fact check.
Right. No fact check.
I can say the Lord is my shepherd and He gives me every single thing that I need. All I got to say is Jesus, 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 Jesus. And they'll take that and be at home talking about some Jesus, Jesus, Jesus,
right.
Jesus, and not getting the daggone thing.
Right.
Because you're taking somebody else's, even if God gives them the interpretation for that message that God has downloaded into them to give, God has 40,000 other revelation off that one scripture.
It's so true.
We can both read it the same way, but based upon what's going on inside of us, we will hear something differently. So you always got to say, hey, God, I heard this, but how do I apply it to me?
Right.
I heard what they said, God, is not resonating with me, and I feel offended. Help me overcome the offense. Is there any truth in what they say? Because the facts that they brought to me, maybe my dress was a little skimpy. The fact that they brought to me, maybe I'm not super friendly and I haven't, I don't, when they tell us to get up and hug, I'm still sitting in the pew. Those are facts. But the truth is, inside of me, I love everybody. Maybe I'm just afraid. Maybe I was never hugged in my life.
I was going to say, some people just aren't affectionate because they never experienced affection.
Nobody's ever said, I love you. Nobody's ever said, anything kind. And we just assume that everybody's had our experience, and it's not true. All of us come to this one place, but all our journeys, even if they're similar, they're different because my fingerprints are different than you. We can have identical backgrounds. Mm-hmm. We could have been raised as neighbors, and our parents were best friends and did everything exactly alike. They had the same number of kids, all of that alike. We could be duplicate, but guess what? Because my dad came from a different background, your dad came from a different background, your mom came from a different background, so on and so forth. So all of their experience, they bring it to the table. And now we have experiences ourselves because you go to school, you have jobs, you have relationships. So it's so much.
Yeah, because you could be in the same house.
For real.
And have a totally different perspective on the Word of God.
5 of us. And while we have commonality in some of the things and some of the ways we think, we still do things different. We run our households different. We didn't marry the same people. So things are going to change. Mm-hmm. So we have to, the same way we want grace extended to us, we got to extend that same grace.
And we can't keep saying, well, how many times do I have to do it?
70 times 7. That's what the Bible says.
Always the one that's giving the olive extending. And
so you'll hear him say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of the Lord. And maybe to the other person they'll say, depart from me, worker of iniquity. I don't even know you.
Who you is.
Because you never showed no love. So my philosophy always is, I'm not going to allow my issue with you to cause me to be in offense with him. Exactly. So we can be upset with one another all we want, but I'm not taking it to a place where then I got to explain to him, it ain't worth that. That's not worth it to me. It's not worth it to me.
It is not.
So here's the dangers of staying wounded. Unhealed church hurt often becomes isolation because we pull back. We stop talking to people. We're not connected to anybody. We stay in that offense. We become bitter. Cynicism. Then we come distrusting of everybody. All church people are like that. You've had one experience with one church, with one nut at the church. Let me not call them a nut because maybe they weren't a nut. Maybe they were telling the truth about you. I don't know. But one person and then everybody like that.
Yeah. And so you're tainting all the people around you too.
Yeah, because now you're not.
It's a disease.
I was having a conversation the other day with a young lady who was talking about the way she was raised, and she was talking about how her mom is so super in her church. We talk about that cliquish kind of thing, that she will sacrifice the husband, the children, grandchildren, everything else just to be wherever the church wants her to be. And that's not God. God is first.
Yes.
Family is second.
Absolutely.
Ministry is third. And ministry includes church. You can never put the gift that God gave you as family below ministry. God would never do that. Everything he does is on that framework. We're the bride. He's the bridegroom.
Right.
So that's a relationship, a covenant that he does not break.
Nope.
So why would he then give you a spouse and a family and then tell you, I don't want you to spend time with them. I want you to be at the house of the Lord. When really the house of the Lord, people in the house of the Lord need to be out in the street, because those are people who we don't need to keep preaching to each other. We come to church to build our strength back, to go back out to war and to win.
Yeah.
But we can't do that if we're spending 99 hours inside the church and no hours out where the sheep are.
Right.
We're the sheep that we need to go gather. And so we can't stay wounded. Sometimes we don't just leave a church. We leave relationships, community, as you said, and we leave hope, because we'll suddenly feel like I'm hopeless again. I'm back to square one. I thought I found a place that was going to help me heal, but instead I'm hurt even more than I was before I got there. And we want to go after people. Put yourself in that place. Go after people, because what if you were hurt? You would just want somebody to acknowledge that you're absent and what's wrong. Even if they don't tell you all of the truth, the fact that you reached out after the end of that conversation or after the end of that visit, you best believe it's made an impression. That maybe everybody at the church is not as bad as I thought. Maybe I need to go back. Maybe I need to address the person who offended me, because maybe they were having a bad day. Or maybe that's how they were taught, to offend. Because I'm telling you, I grew up in that time where churches were very traditionally insulting if you didn't show up and present the way, or you didn't conform. And the word says, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So why are you trying to make me conform to what you say if God is transforming me into something else he said?
I had to get over that in terms of something as simple as how I dress. I like to wear jeans sometimes, and I had to, and not everybody wears jeans, but I had to tell myself that you're here to serve God. And if jeans are how you feel today, then wear your jeans. They're not offensive. You're not hurting anybody. They don't have holes all over. You know what I mean?
You don't have your thighs hanging out because they ripped jeans.
Right. So
what if that's all somebody has?
Right. And my pastor has spoken on that. Do not, especially someone new who doesn't know, do not go to them talking about
what they have on.
That's the quickest way to get them out of there and never to return.
Relationship is getting to know people. It's just like when you date. Dating is to collect data. It's to get to know who they are. If you don't ask questions, you don't learn about them. You don't learn anything about their background. You don't know who's sitting in front of you. You only know the outward appearance, which was what attracted you in the first place, and maybe a little bit of conversation.
All right.
So we prejudge. People come in, you can literally see some super saints in the church when somebody walks in that perhaps doesn't look like they think they should, how their faces change or how they, kind of smirk. And as if the person coming in doesn't feel that, because you give off an energy.
Yeah.
Even if you don't say a word, even if your face doesn't completely say it, though it usually does, you're giving off something that wounded person. They're coming into church. People don't come to church like, oh, that's a place I want to run to. They usually are coming because they're looking for something.
Right.
And who they're looking for really is Christ impressed upon them. The Holy Spirit is impressing upon them that you need something more than what you have.
Right.
And so they're drawn to go to the church because that's the place that has been known to be the place where people get free. But not when you got people still in bondage.
Right.
That's why all them people's left behind. And I ain't trying to do that. So I'm careful because I don't want that to happen. I don't want to offend somebody. I don't want to misjudge or judge at all. You just got to stop it. Sometimes I'll be driving down the street and I'll see something. I was walking the other day and my granddaughter was with me and I forgot my glasses. So there was somebody across the street and I could tell that they were sitting on a step and they were leaning on like a backpack or a purse or something. So I asked her, I said, is that a person? And she said, yeah, it's a lady, look like she's asleep. I said, well, I'm not going to walk because I don't have my glasses on. I'm not going to just walk over there. When we come back around, I'm going to stop and make sure she's okay. So we did our walk across the street, came back down on her side. She was still there in that same position, according to my granddaughter. And she like, I'm going to walk across. No, you're going to come right with me because I want you to see that when there are people who need help, you don't just walk by like they don't exist. And because you never know. And I'm a nurse, so I really am compelled to make sure. She could have been overheated. I didn't have my car, but I certainly could have walked back home and got water or something and drove it back or went and got her food, whatever the need might be. When I finally could get her to wake up, I didn't touch her. I didn't want to approach her because if she was having something happening with her, I didn't want her to wake up swinging. So I was away from her enough that I could keep calling her until finally, for a moment, I thought she was not alive because she wouldn't, nothing I was saying was making her move. And then finally she sat up and looked very confused. And I just kept talking and she was looking at me like I was crazy. But I, again, stayed back. I didn't want to be confrontational to her, make her afraid. But I kept asking her if she was okay. Are you okay? Do you need anything? I just kept talking till she got oriented enough to say, I'm fine. I don't believe she was, but how can I force myself? So what I demonstrated to my granddaughter is I began to talk to God, walking away from her. Like, God, I don't know what she needs. I don't know where she comes from. She didn't have any shoes on. I saw that she had flip-flops. The one was behind her and one was up under her bag. But how is she sitting here? It's hot. And please, God, don't let anything happen to her. If there's something you want me to do, send me back. But I don't want to push myself upon her. Mm-hmm. But what I was trying to demonstrate to my granddaughter was don't judge people because we don't know. We walk past homeless people. We walk past people on the street as if they didn't have a past, mm-hmm. as if they didn't contribute to society at any given time in their life. We don't know who they are. And we do that to people coming into the church. We don't know who they are, but based upon their outward appearance, mm-hmm. you cast judgment. And sooner or later, what you thinking in your head comes from your lips. And then somebody's wounded. Mm. And why? Bible says that, be careful of entertaining strangers unaware. You don't even know who God's sending your way to test and see if you really who you say you are. And listen, I ain't trying to never have him test me and say, oh, so you said you're a woman of God. Let me see how you handle this.
Fraudulent.
You fraud. So we talked about the dangers of staying wounded. and how when we walk away being wounded, we risk losing relationships, community, and hope. How are we on time? This segment is this episode is gonna have to be a little short. There's a storm brewing, and we need to make sure we are safe. Yeah. As much as we love you, we don't want to be unsafe. A hailstorm in the middle of the heat.
Crazy.
Lord have mercy.
We're at 37.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up. Questions for this segment: what happens when people refuse to deal with church hurt? Mm-hmm. And I think you've already addressed it in some of the things you said. How does unresolved hurt affect future relationships and communities? That distrust and teaching your children the same thing. I forgot I was talking about the young lady that I was talking about her mom. Mm-hmm. It made her not take her children to church, although some of her children goes to church with the mom, but she wants to be the one that teaches her children and make sure that they have a love of God, and she's trying to find her place. And I told her, I believe God is calling you, he's been calling you. And unfortunately, what you've seen and when you needed support, it wasn't there by the one who goes to church. And the one who should love you the most because they birthed you. Exactly. So they should show up for you, but they're showing up for the appearances of, what it is to be in the cliques, what it is to be in the environment. But you got bleeding children, bleeding grandchildren, bleeding spouse, everybody bleeding. And you at church doing what? Right. As if you're not going to be, if you're not careful, one of those people sitting in that pew when God comes back. None of us want to be in that position.
That's right, because doing work doesn't make you give you a ticket to heaven.
Absolutely not.
You're in ministries.
In that movie, and you really should check it out. I know you're anti-Tubi, but you really should check out this movie. There's one guy who his wife wanted him to come. He came the last Sunday. He's like, I gave tithes. I'll come back, but I got so much stuff to do outside, and I need to wash my car. I'll come one day. But he's kind of wealthy, so he go running in there. Drove his car to the church. He go jumping out his car because he's like, what is going on? Because he's seeing the news and everything collapsing. So he going to the church, find his wife. He finds his wife's dress on that seat because she gone. And he's telling the pastor, how much money, I'll write a check. What do I got to do? And he's telling him, you can't write a check. He's whipped out $1,000. I got $1,000. And he said, I've been paying tithes in this church. I pay tithes more than all these people in here put together. And you trying to tell me I can't go to hell. I'm Riley, whatever his name was. I can't go to hell. I was cracking up. I said, and to think, some people write checks thinking that that's going to give them a one-up on who? Right. God don't care about that. He owns everything. Right. He's looking for our obedience. So even when you tithe, it's about you being obedient. Right. It is not about form or fashion. There it is. Being in service and they calling up $100 line. So a person can stand up and demonstrate they gave $100. So the person who wished they could can feel bad. Like, what is that? Right. It's ridiculousness. That's not God. No. And so when you get in a place in that, even those kind of things can hurt you if you don't know better. You think that's God, and that's not God. That's a misrepresentation of him. You can't pay him off. You cannot pay him off. And the seeds you sow are supposed to help the building of the kingdom of God so that we can serve more of the people who have a need. That's it. And God requires us outside the church to give to the poor. That's where your blessings come from. Giving to people who need, seeing a need, seeing somebody who's homeless that needs some food. You don't want to give them money, then go in there to get you something to eat, give them something to eat and bring it out and give it to them. Right. You have shoes and you see they don't have no shoes. You got 45 shoes in your closet. Half of them that you don't even remember what's in the box. Give the person a pair of shoes. And so this conversation, as you see, can take us to so many places, but we hope that you are not only subscribed by now, because if you're not, what are you waiting for? We hope that you are clicking the like button because you want to help us grow this podcast. Absolutely. So that we can reach women and men alike, even though this is a podcast to help empower women. We know that there have been men that are empowered because we hear those conversations. And so we want you to do that. And we also want you to share and comment. If you've experienced church hurt, tell us about it. Tell us how you got through it. If you're going through it right now and just need help getting through it, tell us about it. You know, we are a community and we want to build one another up. And we can't do that if we don't all share. This is a place where we don't judge.
Absolutely.
And healing is our hustle. Listen, before I cut off, I want you to visit my website. I haven't told you guys that in a long time, but visit my website because there are new things that are coming. A newsletter that's coming out called The Weekly Nugget. And I'll share different things that I'm doing. And you can go on some journeys with me. And so I want you to do that. I want you to stay connected to me. If you have not gotten your He Told Me to Rest book, listen, you need to get it. It is a life journey book. It's not a book for the here and now that you just read through it. You need to take your time because we want to unearth, uproot, and destroy things. And this book that God gave me to write is a way to get that to happen. And lastly, some of you may know from a post on, if you follow me on social, that I've written a new book. And I haven't told you the name yet. And so stay connected. We've got lots going on. Sandy is working on some things, and when she's ready, she'll announce for you all to participate and to see all the things that God is doing in her. And we want to hear the things that God is doing in you. This is a place where we all need to share and grow together. So we're going to stop. We love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. See you later. Bye.